Welcome everyone to today's Explainer. Today we're doing something a little different. We are skipping right past all those behavioral labels and we're diving straight into the actual physical, biological wiring of the ADHD brain. Think of this as a hardware review to really uncover what's happening beneath the surface. So get ready because what we're about to explore is literally going to fundamentally change how you understand attention, and it's going to give you a precise blueprint to optimize it. Okay, let's dive right into this. You know that feeling when you're reading the exact same sentence for the third time and the information just completely refuses to compute? Or, how about when you're right in the middle of a sentence, talking to someone, and suddenly you're staring blankly and you've completely forgotten what you were about to say? Well, your brain isn't ghosting you, and it definitely isn't a lack of effort. Your brain might actually just be taking a sneaky micronap. Yes, seriously. Researchers from the French Institute of Health and Medical Research, along with Monash University, have uncovered something absolutely fascinating. Your brain isn't just ignoring things. Literal parts of it might actually be falling asleep while your eyes are wide open. There's this incredible quote from the research. What we saw as a shortcoming in concentration turns out to be a hidden survival mechanism of the hardware. I mean, that just completely changes the paradigm, doesn't it? The researchers figured out that ADHD brains aren't just easily distracted on purpose. Instead, when the system gets overwhelmed by mental exhaustion or even just a lack of stimulation, physical parts of the brain's network literally go offline to cool down. It's actually a protective measure. It's your hardware's way of preventing a total system overheat. The scientific term they use for this is local sleep intrusions. During these moments of heavy mental exertion, researchers saw these slow brain waves popping up. Now, normally, these slow waves only happen when you're in a state of deep restorative sleep. But here, they're discreetly invading the waking brain. It turns out the boundary between being awake and being asleep is remarkably porous in an ADHD brain. So when you're trying to just push and force yourself through some tedious task, bits and pieces of your cerebral cortex are quite literally falling asleep. You aren't losing focus. You are losing power. And just to put this into perspective, think about the sheer scale of this. Roughly 2.5% of the global adult population struggles with ADHD. That means right at this exact moment, there are millions of adults sitting in offices, sitting in lectures, just trying to manage their daily lives, all while experiencing these unseen local sleep intrusions. Millions of people are fighting this invisible battle against their own neurobiology. And it's so frustrating, right? Because they just don't understand why their internal operating system keeps buffering. So, when you experience that mind blinking, where your thoughts literally just evaporate into thin air, or mind wandering, where you completely drift off into a daydream during a meeting, it is not a conscious filtering error. It is a localized power outage. Your brain's arousal regulation system is essentially crashing. And here's the thing, you can't fix a power outage with more willpower. It's like trying to turn on a lamp that's unplugged by just wishing really, really hard. It doesn't work. You have to understand the hardware. And this brilliantly illustrates why a one-size-fits-all approach to ADHD is always destined to fail. The source material points out 3 distinct hardware profiles, and your interventions have to actually match your specific system. For instance, with the inattentive profile, monotony is the trigger that causes the system to power down, so they need external structure, things like body doubling, just to stay online. On the flip side, the hyperactive profile experiences these sleep intrusions as a massive crash, right after a period of intense hyperfocus. To reboot, their system actually requires intense physical movement. And then you have the combined profile, which is highly unpredictable and requires really flexible, adaptive daily routines. If you apply the wrong reboot to your specific hardware, you're honestly just creating more friction. Now, gender also plays a profound role in how the system operates under stress. Men with ADHD typically externalize their system overloads. They tend to push their hardware through impulsivity and intense hyperfocus until, bam, they hit a sudden, unavoidable crash. Women, on the other hand, frequently internalize. They engage in something called masking, actively hiding their symptoms just to fit in. But here is the absolutely critical part. Masking doubles the cognitive load on the brain. It's exhausting. And when you add in rejection-sensitive dysphoria, where normal social interactions feel like high-stakes threats, the hardware drains incredibly fast. This rapidly accelerates those local sleep intrusions. 36 hours. Let that number sink in. According to the research, just 6 hours of continuous cognitive load in a standard neurotypical school environment feels neurologically equivalent to being awake for 36 straight hours for an ADHD brain. Just think about that for a second. We are asking students to perform at their absolute peak capacity while their brains are literally screaming for sleep. They are accumulating massive amounts of slow wave activity,
simply because the environment is entirely misaligned with our biological blueprint.
So how do we actually fix this? Well, we need a software patch. Enter the 25 Proactive Micro Reboot. Honestly, it's basically the biological equivalent of that classic IT advice. Have you tried turning it off and on again? Because the ADHD brain hits its cooling limit much faster. You cannot wait for the system to force an unplanned local sleep intrusion. You have to rest it proactively. Here's how it works. You do 20 minutes of intense focus, followed by a mandatory 5-minute physical reboot. You get up, you move around, you take a breath, and this is crucial, step 3, zero screen switching. Checking your phone or scrolling social media is not a reboot. It's just a different kind of processing. You must genuinely rest the system. Let's move to the nighttime routine and see how this builds. Because since the daytime system is leaking slow brain waves, we absolutely have to fortify our deep sleep at night to repair the interface. If you aren't getting deep sleep, those slow waves just spill right over into your next day. You need strict bedtime routines to stabilize your circadian rhythm. Turn those screens and the blue light off a full 60 minutes before bed to let your brain power down. The research even points to using audio stimulation, things like binaural beats or pink noise, to really enhance those deep sleep waves. Oh, and keep the bedroom cool, ideally below 19 degrees Celsius. Next up, we have to talk about how we manage our energy throughout the day. When you look at arousal mapping, you have red zone tasks. Think boring, repetitive admin work. These carry a massive, massive risk of triggering a local sleep intrusion. But then you have green zone tasks, things that are creative or urgent or high stakes. These naturally generate dopamine and keep your arousal stable. So the key takeaway here? Never ever schedule all your red zone tasks back to back. You've got to strategically alternate between your green and red zones. That's how you naturally keep your system's power levels high and prevent those unexpected crashes. But okay, what happens when an intrusion hits you right in the absolute middle of a meeting or a conversation? The research outlines a real-time interface reset, and these 3 steps are literally your lifeline. Step 1, recognize the intrusion without shame. Seriously, don't panic. Step 2, place your hand on your heart and take 3 slow exhales. This physically shifts your nervous system. And finally, step 3, speak your last conscious thought out loud. Feeling ashamed and just trying harder to remember is only going to exhaust your frontal lobe even further. This simple little reset reboots your working memory and gets your hardware back online smoothly. Ultimately, all of this research points to one incredibly vital truth. You are not broken. You are just wired differently. For anyone watching who has spent years fighting against their own brain, feeling like you are failing a test that everyone else was just passing effortlessly, please, please hear this. A well-designed network doesn't force the hardware to do something it wasn't built for. It adapts to the hardware. Those micronaps, the brain fog, the fatigue, it's not a character flaw. It is simply a signal from a highly capable, unique system that just needs to be operated with the correct user manual. So I'm going to leave you with this final, really important question. How will you redesign your own blueprint? Now that you actually know the science behind local sleep intrusions and you understand the difference between a character flaw and a localized power outage, how are you going to change your daily routines? Are you going to start mapping out your arousal zones? Will you try out the 25 micro reboot? The power is entirely in your hands to build a life that actually supports your incredible, uniquely wired mind. Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer, and honestly, I cannot wait to see how you upgrade your hardware.